Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and man, I've been dying to review this action figure for about a week now. He's been sitting on my desk, calling out to me every day. Gary, open me up. Talk about me on YouTube, please. And finally, I get to do it, you know? I got to talk about this brand new Super7 Ultimates, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, glow-in-the-dark Scumbug. Man, it's like Super7 made this thing just for me. Brian, are you listening? Can you hear me? Make a glow-in-the-dark Wingnut and Screw Loose next, please. This thing would be so cool. At this point, I'll take any Ninja Turtle action figure and glow in the dark. Just think of all the cool color schemes you could give Mondo Gecko. Or you know who I just popped in my head recently? Genghis Frog. Like if you made this monstrous Genghis Frog in glow in the dark colors, that would just be fantastic. Like you could paint like some of these warts on his body, like different colors, so that like maybe his skin tone could be glow in the dark, but then you'd have all these spots on him. That would look fantastic glow in the dark. Just an idea. So Scumbug here, as I said, was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. He went up for sale as soon as San Diego Comic-Con, I guess, started. And then eventually the leftovers were sold online, right? You could order these things on July 29th, which I did right at noon whenever they went up. And I got it on August 6th, which, wasn't too long. But I got this thing a day later than a guy I talked to in Europe. And that's just bullcrap. I mean, come on. How could the post office fail me so much? He cost $65 and the shipping was free. Which, man, I can't even believe that. I can't believe I got this thing for free. I got him and Ghost Groon at the same time. And what was really cool was if you bought these, I don't know what the rules were or whatever, but you got this free extra bonus gift, this worst Killer Bat glow-in-the-dark reaction figure. I don't collect reaction figures, but I gotta admit, I like the design of this guy. I think he looks pretty cool, and I'm probably gonna hang him up on the wall. Extra points for being glow in the dark. Just thought that was neat. So $65, is more than the standard Ultimates action figure. But it actually kind of was a good thing because the standard Scumbug action figure cost $65. So the glow in the dark Scumbug was $65. He was $65. Do you remember there was a time there where Super7 was charging extra for the glow-in-the-dark action figures? So, it's nice that this guy costs the same amount of money as him. And he doesn't have any less accessories. He's got all the same crap. And they charge the same amount of money. In all honesty, I never understood why the original Scumbug cost $65 instead of $55 anyways. Was it because of the elaborate backpack and all these tubes and stuff like that? Was it because he had like the extra head that is sort of, I don't know, has a lot more paint apps and stuff on it than the standard Ultimates action figure? I don't know. He's got a lot of paint all over his body, so maybe that's some of it. Who knows? I just think it was nice that this wasn't a $75 or $85 action figure. And you know what else is nice? That Super7 maybe listened to buyer feedback and decided to include a slipcover. Check that out. I love the green to teal, maybe light blue gradient. I think that looks really awesome. The last time they released a glow-in-the-dark action figure 10 months ago, which was the Slash glow-in-the-dark action figure, they didn't include the slipcover. Neither of them included the brown mailer, and I think Slash came in a plastic bag. This did not come in a plastic bag. But I'm just glad to see a slipcover for all of you mint and box collectors. I do not collect these action figures mint and box. I take them out. I usually cut off the front and keep that, or maybe keep like the bio on the back. But I do keep some of these variant Ultimates packages. I've kept all of the unique glow-in-the-dark boxes. I think maybe, was it Muckman and Mutagen Man had like the same color slipcover, so I got rid of one of them. But I think I kept, I know I kept the Baxter Stockman. I will definitely keep this one. Now, even though I love this special glow-in-the-dark box design that's unique to the Scumbug action figure, I think it is a major bummer that this like glow-in-the-dark detail around the manhole and these bugs is not actually painted in glow-in-the-dark paint. A lot of the older figures, I think like maybe Muckman and Mutagen Man, and I think Baxter, this was glow in the dark. I'll have to check. I'll have to compare. But this was actually painted with glow in the dark paints, and this is not. So, you know, it's not going to stand out. Like, just imagine how cool it would be if you did collect these mint and box and you had this on your shelf. You turn out the lights and you just kind of see these little bugs glowing in the dark on the front and on the side of this thing. More over here. And even on the back here, you know, it would just be cool to see this all glowing in the dark. But unfortunately, they didn't, you know, paint it that way. Was it due to budget costs? Probably. That's what Super 7 is usually telling people. It's just expensive. We can't do it. So, you know, it would have been cool. I think it looks nice the way it is. But if those were all glow in the dark, it would be fantastic. So after that, there's not much really more to say about the slipcover. It's a cool looking design with Scumbug's face in here. It's the same as the, you know, the manhole is the same as what you saw on the standard Scumbug. So now let's open this guy up. All right. So here is Scumbug, and he looks very cool in there. I like all the color choices that they make with these glow-in-the-dark action figures. They always pick like these neon colors. They look really 90s. We especially saw that with the Slash action figure. That, at the time, was my favorite. Will this guy overtake him? We'll find out as this review goes along. But the package design and the layout is really nice. You know, you can see everything in here. The only thing that you can't see is there's actually some extra hands down here behind this logo. Here's what it looks like as it glows in the dark, which is even cooler, right? You know, I don't know, I feel like such a pain in the ass sometimes, but sometimes you look at things and you're like, oh, that looks really cool, but I kind of do wish that they would have maybe like left the nozzle down here at the end of this larger spray gun glow in the dark, you know, that, because like when you look at this thing in the dark, you only see this little section right here and you can't even see the rest of it. But like his body looks pretty cool. I would have maybe had the bugs be glow in the dark too, but you know, whatever. So in a minute, I'm going to open this guy up. Hopefully, you know what I'm really hoping about this action figure? I'm really hoping that the backpack sticks in his back way better than the standard Scumbug, because man, like every time I pick up the standard Scumbug, the backpack falls off his back, or the tubes fall out of his chest, or the one tube will come disconnected from the turtle exterminating gun. The back here is just the same exact bio that was included on the standard Scumbug. You know, it says the same exact stuff. And just imagine, like I said before, how cool this would have been if this was actually all painted in glow-in-the-dark paints. These bugs, even this, because if you did have this glow-in-the-dark and then like the letters were left out, you could actually read it in the dark. In the front here, again, like this ooze, this glow-in-the-dark mutagen ooze around the bubble would look very cool if it actually glowed in the dark, and the bugs and everything like that. And then my last thing that I would say was, you know, some of the past glow-in-the-dark action figures from Super 7, including the Mutagen Ooze Ninja Turtles, had like cool special glow-in-the-dark names. Like you had Bug Zapper Blue Baxter Stockman, and you had Noxious Green Muckman. I kind of wish that Super 7 would have continued to do that with all these glow-in-the-dark action figures. Slash didn't have a name, and now Scumbug doesn't have a name. He's just Scumbug. I was actually thinking about it a little bit, and I thought, you know, because cockroaches can survive nuclear blasts and high levels of radiation, maybe we could call him Nuclear Winter White Scumbug, because his, you know, skin tone is kind of whitish. You know, I think that would be kind of cool. So now it's time for me to open this guy up, move him around. I'm really hoping that the joints are good on him. And as I said before, I hope all of his accessories actually stay in place. I will talk to you in a second. So here he is, free from his prison of cardboard and plastic, ready to keep you company as you walk down to the kitchen in the dark for a late night snack. Maybe you'll see some of his family having a nosh on your table. Your wife told you to wipe it off after dinner, but you blew her off to play Super Mario Brothers. Now you get to clean up cookie crumbs and cockroach crap. Ugh. So this dude is quite a striking action figure. His very 90s color scheme is very eye-catching, and I really like the choice of the yellow tongue. For some reason, that really stands out to me. I do wish that Super 7 would have included some shading on his body, especially in the nose area here, because it kind of gets lost in that white glow-in-the-dark plastic. You know, one of the reasons why Slash is probably my favorite Ultimates glow-in-the-dark action figure was because they had all this awesome shading on his arms and on his face there to really bring out the detail. You lose that with this Scumbug. He has no shading on him whatsoever. Yeah, Slash was... he was definitely my favorite. This Scumbug is good. He just couldn't take the lead. So real quick, here is this shot in glow-in-the-dark. So you can see how all this stands out in the dark. You can't see the bugs at all, unfortunately. But once you have them plugged into his body, you know, that'll be good, especially like on his belly. The silhouette of the bugs will look nice. Kind of like what's already there that's painted on his belly. I love how even in the dark, you can still make out like his pants and his shirt and everything like that. Like he looks really cool and he glows really well. So even though visually this dude is amazing, he does have some problems, all right? Just like the standard Scumbug, his backpack is troublesome, all right? It actually sticks better into the back here than the original one. I think maybe because the original one, the peg is painted, and maybe that makes it a little slippery. This seems like it has a tighter grip for now. And here's a quick look at this in the dark, too. But seriously, why would they create such tiny nubs that stick inside such tiny holes? Like, it's smooth. It just goes in there. There's no ridge or anything like that that could cause friction in order to keep it in place. It's, you know, a major problem because, honestly, anytime I move this guy around, I have to readjust these. I always have to pop them back into place. Just the slightest touch and they pop out. Luckily, where the hose assembly attaches to the bug pack, it's not really a problem here. These usually stay in pretty well. Same thing with the original Scumbug. But down here, this one pops out sometimes too. This again has a little nub, but at least there's more friction or something, maybe because of what this is made out of. I don't know. It just keeps that in place a little better. But where the hose connects to the turtle exterminating gun, this can pop out a little bit, but it keeps in there pretty good. The most trouble I have with this whole gun is that the wrist here. Like, you have to push the hand all the way into the wrist so that you get the most friction out of the joint. That way you can actually keep the gun upright. If you just have the gun or the hand out and it's not in all the way, sometimes the gun will pull the hand down to the side, and then you gotta pop it back into place. The problem is that, you know, it's not a very secure joint. And the peg for the wrist, or for the hand, pops out of that wrist joint all the time. The second problem is when I first pulled this guy out, he was very stiff, and a lot of the parts on his body are sharp. You know, he's got like these spikes on his forearm here, and actually cut my finger. Son of a bitch. And what's even worse than that is this crap right here. Look at this. I tried to move his arm, and his arm popped right out of the socket. Now, I have no idea why they would design it like this, but, I mean, this is just so, like, stupid or something. Like, so it's, like, completely flat here, and the only way that this piece sticks into the shoulder is with these, like, very, very small pegs or nubs. And I guess maybe it was glued, or maybe there was a lip that kind of kept it in place. I don't know, but like this situation right here is just not strong enough, you know? All I did was try to rotate the shoulder upward, and the arm just kind of popped right out like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to super glue this thing and try to continue this review after it dries. I think the paint on Scumbug is good, but it could have been a little darker. You know, at night when he's glowing in the dark, it's not going to make much difference, but in the daylight or room lights, this blue and the green of the bugs and even the yellow is just too bright. You know, it all blends together. And it all blends together with the white plastic of his skin, you know, all this glow in the dark stuff. So when you just kind of look at him, there's not much contrast and nothing really pops, in my opinion. It's like you really have to pay attention to like the yellow in his tongue, or the tie stands out next to this blue, but like the bugs especially, like when you look at this thing just under normal lights, the bugs just disappear in this shirt. There is some paint slop around this bug here, like they didn't do a really good job of painting his legs. But when you get down to the pants, you know, this dark magenta color, you know, that looks perfectly fine. That works really well with this super white action figure. If you go back once again to the amazing Slash action figure, you know, there's so much contrast with Slash. Like his yellows are darker, his greens might be a little darker, or maybe there's just more of it. Even the blue of his gums and the shading on his body is a darker blue than the blue we see on Scumbug. You know, he just pops. So, like I said, I think Scumbug was cool, but I wish he was a little darker. One of my favorite things about this Scumbug is how they still painted the veins in his eyeballs. I think that really makes him look cool, and it's perfect because not only does it read really well during the daytime, but at nighttime, man, that looks really good. You know, you still get the shape of the eyeballs with all those veins. He kind of looks like he's been huffing his bug fumes a little too much, but it works perfectly. And that's why I wish they would have included some kind of shading on his nose here to try to give that some definition when you're looking at him in the dark. I like how you have the gums painted right here, but you know, even with that, it's like it would have been maybe better to have like some kind of lines between the teeth, or maybe even just painted the teeth all together, kind of like what they did with Muckman. The tongue looks good. I like the top part of his head. I like that yellow there. I think that's pretty neat looking. Then you have like this I don't know, dark purple or magenta right here. This band around his antennas. That looks good. I already talked about the shirt, but once again, you know, if they would have made those bugs a little darker, that would have been fantastic. Would have actually kind of worked for me is maybe if you would have left the bugs glow in the dark, but left the shirt painted. That way, when you look at him in the dark, you can see the outline of the bugs on the shirt, and then left the bugs on his skin painted. You know, that would have created a pretty cool design. The shell on his back looks good. It's actually a little transparent. You know, this glow-in-the-dark plastic is not as thick, I guess, as it could have been. But, you know, that looks pretty nice. I like all the detail on this guy, too. I never did a review of Super7's Scumbug. But I have mixed feelings about him. There's some things I like, and then some things that I was a little unhappy with. But I like all the extra bugs on his back here. That looks good. Man, look at all these spikes on his arms. These make it a little difficult to move him around and pose him, because that will stab you. The belt down here looks pretty good. I got no complaints about that. These, I guess, bug spray grenades. These actually glow in the dark, which is nice. You possibly could have left the whole belt glow in the dark, but I think it works out. You know, I don't really have anything negative to say about that. Maybe you could have left the belt buckle glow in the dark with the bug on there. The pants look good. You know, this dark color next to the glow in the dark plastic. The good thing about the pants too is because the bugs are a lighter green, they really stand out when they're sitting on top of that pretty dark magenta color. And then down at the bottom, this one boot with this claw sticking out looks great. I like that little glow in the dark claw sticking out there. And then the other side is just the regular Scumbug insect foot. I don't know. Do you think maybe they could have put more glow-in-the-dark spots on this guy? I think out of all these glow-in-the-dark action figures, he might have the least glow-in-the-dark showing. You do have the giant shell in the back, but in the front, there just seems to be a lot of clothes. So, I mean, there's not much you can really do about that. So in the back, you could put the bug pack in the back, and this is, like I said, it's a little better than the regular Scumbug, but it still slips out a little bit. The hose assembly. Now this bug pack actually looks pretty awesome in my opinion. I really like the detail on this. I like these little connector pieces that attach to the hoses. Up here you have these like gauges and stuff like that. That all looks good. I think the green and this, you know, lighter pink or magenta color works really well together. It reminds me a lot of the Joker. This bug pack looks amazing as it glows in the dark. And one of my favorite things about it is the skull and crossbones is left to glow in the dark. I think the best glow in the dark action figures in this line do what they can to create interesting silhouettes on the body, you know, using paint on top of the glow-in-the-dark plastic or leaving sections opened up so you can have the glow-in-the-dark plastic in there. I think Scumbug does a pretty decent job, but I don't know. Like I said, there's some spots I maybe would have did a little differently, like maybe have the bugs glow in the dark on the shirt or added some kind of shading to really make some of these bits stand out. Like you could have had maybe something here around the spikes, the base of the spikes, to try to make it stand out a little better, because when you look at it in the dark, it just kind of all blends together. I don't know. I probably sound like I'm complaining a lot. I still think this guy is cool. I'm just, you know, giving you my opinion. When it comes to articulation, I think Scumbug has decent articulation. You can move him around a little bit, but he's hindered a lot. You know, some of it is just because of the way he's built, you know, his design. Some of it is because when you try to move him, you're going to knock these hoses out and you're going to be super angry like me. And you're just going to want to barely move him. Looking up, his head looks up about that high. And then if you go any higher than that, his head will pop right off the ball peg. Looking down, he cannot really look down. He just looks forward. The mouth opens and closes, so you can pretend that you're talking to people with him. These fangs, or these pincers, whatever you want to call these tusk teeth, they're actually ball jointed, so you can move them all over the place. That's pretty nice. You can get different looks with his face. The shoulder here rotates up about that high and can rotate all the way around. But for some reason, the way the arm is, the bicep is sort of, I don't know, angled this way. I had a really hard time trying to get him into action poses, because I feel like I couldn't go back any further than this. Like, you couldn't make it look like he was about ready to, like, you know, pull back to throw a punch or anything like that. And then the elbow joint here is kind of up in the bicep. It's kind of weird the way it's cut here, but that swivels, and there's also a hinge. And then the wrist here. The wrist drives me crazy, because the wrist is like built in a way that his hand is always like this. And it just looks not good. You know, it looks like, I don't know, like he's not ready for action. Same thing with the other side. I wish there was maybe like a rotation joint right here where the bicep connects to the t-shirt. I think that would be helpful because it's always kind of stuck there and it looks kind of weird if you're swiveling the arm out this way. This is the wrist that's a pain in the neck because see how it's like loose like that? You can try to push it in farther, but it's just gonna, like it's nice and sturdy now, but it doesn't take much for it to just kind of become out of place and become loose again, and then you got to push it back in. I feel like this torso cut right here is kind of useless. Like, the rotation can't really do much because the shell gets in the way. And I don't know, it's not really worth it. It's not really worth having this cut right here. It kind of hurts the sculpt, and it's just kind of useless. It's kind of like the torso cuts on like the Silverhawks figures. Like I feel like all the Steelheart, like her torso cut is useless. Like you can barely. I think all the Silverhawks are like that. There's no point in having the cut there. Just give them a solid torso, and you'd be fine. The waist cut is good. You know, you can twist that around pretty good. The hips, you have the standard Super7 hips where, you know, they can rotate outward. And then this like thigh is laid on top of this ball joint here, so you can swivel this around. Now, the knees, I think, are weird on this guy because I just feel like they're like at weird spots. Like if you try to make the leg forward, the boot kind of lines up weird here. It's like crooked or something. But the knee joints are a little difficult to move. They're a little stiff, which is good because you don't want him to fall over at the knees like we've seen with lots of Super7 action figures. But you also don't want to snap that peg in there. And that swivels. And then there's a boot cut right here on both sides. Stupid pack. And then the ankle here has a hinge and ankle rockers. And that is it for articulation, I believe. I think there's nothing else that can be done. You can kind of look up the shell back here, or the wings, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's it. Hair doesn't twist. Scumbug comes with an extra head, and it's very easy to swap him out. I mean, that, you see how easy that popped off there? And you just pop that new one in place. Now the question is, do cockroaches hypnotize stuff? Like, what is the purpose of having these swirly eyes? Like, he looks like he's putting somebody in a trance. Maybe even you.
$65 is a fair price for an action figure. You're right, Scumbug. What a deal!
So here's a side-by-side comparison with the standard Scumbug. Now, I never made a review of this dude when he came out a little while ago, mostly because of time, but if you were wondering, I think he's okay. I just don't think he ever really captured the magic of the original toy. Like, a lot of the details seem toned down. He's just nowhere near as exaggerated. I feel like he's lost some of his edge. I mean, his face doesn't look nearly as angry as it used to. Like, almost like he's kind of going through the motions or something like that. The new version doesn't give me the same creepy vibe, like the arm here. The original just looks like it's so much more organic and disgusting. All of the muscle definition is gone in the new version. And the spikes don't have that same, like, exploding out of the arm feel. Same thing with the legs. It just seems sterile, I guess. On the new version, I feel like they kept the bug parts small, almost like they were afraid to really get messy and disgusting. The wrinkles in the shirt are all toned down and basically non-existent. And my biggest problem with this new sculpt is they left out these like extra insect claws here in the torso. That was such a cool detail on the original action figure, and here in this brand new one, I don't know, it just looks boring. I actually kind of like the NECA cartoon version of Scumbug better, because even though he doesn't have the claws, it just seems a little more organic or interesting. I also think in general the torso is like too small for the body, and for a company that, you know, wanted to reduce articulation to avoid ugly cuts, I think that torso cut really mars the overall shape and aesthetic of this guy. It's just not flush at all. It looks kind of weird. I also think his head is way too friggin' big, as usual with Ultimates. You're also missing the skin on the leg here. You know, I love that on the original action figure. And he doesn't have those like 50s torpedo bra eyes. Even the antennas seem shorter, or I don't know, not as exciting as they should be. Just overall, the proportions are off. There's something about it that bugs me. Another thing I want to mention is I really hate the way that they did the wrist joints. Like the ball joints are in the wrong spot. They're almost like coming out of the back of the thumb. You know, where your wrist joint is closer to the bottom of your hand. Like, I don't know, it's weird. It makes it so that his hands are always like tilting forward or something. It's hard to get like a nice striking pose with his claw hand. It doesn't look right. Like, look at the reaching hand or the expressive hand. See how it's angled down like that? Like the ball is up here in the wrist and the hand just kind of like juts down. Because of that, like, it really affects, you see that shit too? It really affects the look of the expressions you want to try to make with this guy. He can never look aggressive. This dude came out in the same wave as Wingnut. And Wingnut was a fantastic action figure. Like, they really went nuts with that guy, and they just sort of did the bare minimum with this guy. You know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm being an asshole, but that's just kind of what I get from him. You know, Wingnut, for me, easily won that wave. And that's not something I would say about the original 1990 toys. You know, back then, Scumbug, to me, was the winner. So back to the side-by-side. You know, despite my complaints, I still think these guys look neat. Both of these guys' shirts are almost the exact same color. And I think that's a little disappointing because, as I said before, the bright color just kind of blends in with the glow-in-the-dark plastic. And I also kind of wish that it was a different color just so that he was unique when you compare him to him. If you look at the head, the one thing I think is, instead of like just painting the gums right here on the front of the face, I think it would be so much better if they would have painted the actual inside of the mouth that pink gum color. That way the teeth would really stand out, and maybe leave the tongue unpainted so that the tongue was glow in the dark. You know, I think that would work a lot better, because at the moment, when you're looking at this in the dark, you just kind of see this black line right there, and you kind of make out the tongue, but it's, I don't know, it's not really dark enough. A lot of this just kind of becomes this white, glowy plastic in the dark. And I think that if you really wanted to make this thing pop, you could have colored either the inside of the mouth that pink gum color, left the tongue unpainted, or you could have maybe not painted the gums here, but painted the teeth and the tongue. That way you can still make out those shapes, kind of like Muckman's do. You know, Muckman has really black paint around his eyes, and even the pin, the clothespin over his nose, kind of brings out the nose shape. You know what I think is interesting is, before, earlier in the video, like an hour ago, I said that they should have left the bugs unpainted on the shirt. That way those shapes would stand out in the dark. Well, they actually did leave one bug unpainted. This one right up here on the shoulder. That really does stand out when you look at him in the dark. So I wish they would have done that with all the other bugs. I was kind of wondering why they would leave that bug unpainted, but even in the promo shots, they left that bug unpainted, or painted him white. It was in glow in the dark, and all the other ones green, except for the bug in this shot. Here, all the bugs are painted green. Now, this is a 3D rendering, so obviously it looks a little different than an actual real-life action figure. But I gotta say, the shirt looks darker here, and I think it looks way better. Not only that, but they actually painted the teeth and those spikes on his chin. So they must have been thinking about doing that originally, but then changed their minds. As I mentioned before, I like his magenta or hot pink pants. Those look good. Like, I don't know, the details they look cool. It's just, like I said, there's just something about it that just seems a little calm. Like I said, with all the details on his arms and all that kind of stuff, he's lost a lot of the grittiness or griminess that he originally had. He's too clean on this new version. I'm trying so hard not to knock this guy over because every time this guy falls, every single hose pops out of his body and the bug pack falls off, and it's a nightmare. But here, if you look at the back, more specifically, if you look at the bug pack, they didn't include the Toxid turtle kill on this new version. You know, on this the standard version, I do like the two different greens they use for the shell. I like the darker and the lighter down here. Like, I think that looks really, really cool. All the details on the shell are pretty nice too. Like the I don't know what ridges and stuff like. I guess these are the wings, right? Yeah, I guess those would be his wings. They're just all tucked up there. You know, in some ways, I think that maybe I'm just a spoiled brat. A spoiled brat with my critiques and complaining. But Super 7 has really amazed me in the past with a lot of their glow-in-the-dark action figures. And I think this guy is really cool. It's just, I think some of the detail could really use some help, you know, so that it would stand out. Because I feel like all the other glow-in-the-dark action figures did that. So he looks good, but I just feel like they could have went a few more steps and he would have been, like, amazing. Here's a close look at his belt. The original Scumbug didn't have a belt, so this was something new that Super 7 included, and I think it's nice. You know, he's got these bug grenades on this version, as I showed you before, the glow-in-the-dark, which is pretty cool. It's got a belt buckle with a little bug on it, and he also has the original belt that the original Scumbug had, and the original Scumbug had a little cockroach there on the buckle. Same thing with this. You can actually see the original belt buckle underneath, as well as this brand new belt buckle. So he's wearing two belts. And this this bug spray over here, it's got this little no symbol on it. On to accessories. And first up, let's talk yet again about the bug pack with the hose assembly. Or as Super 7 refers to it, the toxic pack with tubes. Personally, I like the hose assembly better. That sounds cool. I do like the design that Super 7 went with. It's not as exciting as the original one. As you can see with the original one, it was just a little more exaggerated, you know, a little more cartoony. Here, everything's a little square or something. But it still looks good, you know. I got really no complaints about that. I do like the new color scheme. As I said, it reminds me of something about the Joker from Batman '89, but I can't think of it right now. One thing I actually like better than the original action figure are the hoses. I just think they look cool. There's something, I don't know, kind of creepy or gross about them. The way that they're shaped. Like this one, it was just kind of normal, you know, kind of boring. Nothing interesting going on. But there's just something about this, like, gross tan gray color. I don't know. I just kind of feel like you could imagine that some disgusting goop or spray is moving through them. You know, just everything about him looks bad, you know? Like, you don't want to mess with any of this stuff. One thing that I think is funny is Super 7 made him right-handed, right? He's shooting the turtle exterminating gun out the right hand. When the original one, he was definitely left-handed. You know, the hose kind of connected there. It went to that left hand. So they changed it. Apparently Super 7 doesn't like left-handed people. It's like that time Nintendo changed Link whenever they made Twilight Princess for the Wii. They flipped the whole game so that right-handed people could use the Wiimote, and all the left-handed people were left in the dark. Sorry. Here's the turtle exterminating gun, or as Super 7 calls it, the small spray gun. This looks very similar to the original one, but again, like the details are flipped because the hose is actually on the other side. I think they did a good job painting this thing for glow-in-the-dark purposes because they left the barrel here glow-in-the-dark, so you can actually see it well in the dark. Like I said, it's a very neat design. I like it. I think they did a good job of bringing this thing into the present time from the original action figure. Yeah, see, here's the original. And if you look, these details are on this side. Although it's, you know, it's got a little bit of a different setup. I like that the trigger is actually painted red here. And then if you go to the other side, these details are, again, flipped. And that's actually there. Like, you have the keypad here. That's there. No trigger paint on this thing, but like I said, everything that's painted here actually looks pretty good when this is glowing in the dark. I almost forgot. You can also put the turtle exterminating gun on the bug pack like that. There's a little piece that comes off the side. You can just stick that on there in case you want to have him open-handed. Very cool. Up next, you have the large spray gun. Now, this was brand new for Super 7 Scumbug. This is not based off of anything. It's just a very cool looking design. You know, it's nice that they at least left the hole here so you can hook up the hose to it. And as I said earlier, I kind of wish that they would have, maybe you could have left the barrel here glow in the dark, and then maybe left this glow in the dark, and then the actual nozzle there glow in the dark. I think that would look better, because if you look at it in the dark, all you do is just see the, you know, the handle. They should have planned that one out a little better. Scumbug actually has a special hand to specifically hold this larger spray gun. The difference is, you know, it's got like a full-on grip here. Completely grips the handle. And the other hand that I had on him earlier has a trigger finger, because the smaller spray gun has a trigger. So that's nice, because if you try to put it in the trigger finger hand, it's a little loose. Moves around a little bit. Scumbug comes with 6 cockroaches, and it is a little bit of a bummer that these are not glow in the dark. They look so much like they should be glow in the dark, but they're just cool green bugs, you know, cool green variant bugs next to these orange ones. I think the orange ones have like a little bit of a wash or something on them. It looks like there's some dark ink in the cracks and crevices to bring out the detail. You can still make it out fairly well with the green ones, but, you know, whatever. One thing that's neat is there's actually holes in Scumbug's body, so you can actually plug a little peg into the hole, and the bugs will stay on his body. I found this one on the forearm, 2 on the belly, 1 over here on the thigh, and then 1 down here on the foot. Now, maybe there is a 6th hole somewhere, I'm not sure. Or maybe you're just supposed to stick that bug in his mouth and have him chomp down on it to freak out the turtles. Ooh. And last, Scumbug comes with 4 sets of hands, alright? You have a gripping hand with the claw hand, and then you have a trigger finger hand, alright? Then you have a fist for the claw hand, a fist for the human hand. Come on. You have a like a reaching hand with the claw hand, which I usually probably use the most. Then you also have a reaching hand with the human hand. And then you have a pointing finger. Reminds me of the of like the Gremlins movie with that giant claw finger pointing. And then you just have a another gripping hand, this one to hold the larger spray gun. And that is all. So here he is next to all of the other Super 7 glow-in-the-dark Ninja Turtle Ultimates action figures minus Wrath and Mike, because at that point they're just getting a little redundant. But I think he looks pretty amazing next to all these guys. As I said before, I feel like his colors are a little too muted. You know, the shirt and the boots, it just blends so much into the rest of the glow-in-the-dark plastic. Like, look at all the other Ultimates. Look at Baxter. Look at the contrast of his legs and his skin. Even the white, there's a little more contrast in that white of his lab coat and the blue glow-in-the-dark plastic. Like, the turtles especially are very vibrant, and all of the details on Muckman are very dark, which, you know, stand out next to his glow-in-the-dark complexion. But how do all these look in the dark? The Ninja Turtles are, I would say, the middle glow-in-the-dark. But Scumbug, Muckman, Mutagen Man, and Slash all look great. I think the least glowy ones are Baxter and the Foot Soldier, just because, for whatever reason, that blue glow-in-the-dark plastic doesn't really glow that well. I would put Scumbug in the middle of all these guys. You know, there's nothing super offensive about him other than his articulation problems. But he also just doesn't grab my eye as much as Muckman or Slash. The brand new Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates Glow-in-the-Dark Scumbug is a creepy, crawly cockroach nightmare that'll make you keep a can of Raid on your nightstand. Just when you thought it was safe to turn out the lights, you're hypnotized by the glow of a mutant so vile, even Muckman would exclaim, "Yuck." Like most Super 7 figures, visually, I find this guy very appealing. You know, despite all my critiques, and despite the sculpt not living up to my expectations of what I wanted from the original 1990 action figure, there's still a lot I like about this guy. He glows fantastic. One of the best glowing action figures in the line. You know, he glows as good as Muckman and Slash. But also, he does have some problems. You know, there's some problems with the accessories and some problems with the articulation. The hose assembly just falls out at the slightest movement. It really pisses me off. You know, like, same with the bug pack. It took me about 2 hours to shoot this action sequence that you're watching right now, and I'd say 45 minutes of that was just trying to connect the hoses to his body and also back into the gun, or the hose would pop off the bug pack, and I'd have to put that back in. Once you're dealing with both the standard and the glow in the dark one, it just became a nightmare. Just constant readjusting and trying to set up the correct way. It was really driving me nuts, and I almost threw this friggin' thing right through the wall. You know, Super 7, in the future, I would love it if you made parts that snap into place, all right? Because there is no friction here. There is nothing. You know, there is no bulge, there's no ridges or anything like that to keep them locked in place. It's just the tiniest nubs going in the tiniest holes. It doesn't work. Also, in usual Super 7 fashion, his joints did become loose after I was using him. I wouldn't say it's as bad as the other figures. Like, one of his hips got a little loose. The other ones seemed to remain pretty good. The shoulders stayed nice and stiff. I would say the elbows were good. But the wrist that holds the gun, as I was saying before, you know, you have to push that hand all the way in to lock into place. You know, you can kind of put it in there and you kind of think like it's all the way in, but, you know, it spins around very freely. Well, after shooting all these shots, it seems like his hand never wants to lock into place all the way into the the furthest depths of joint locking, I guess. So like it was just constantly in the spot where it would just spin around, and the hose would just kind of pull it around, and it would spin around, and then the hose would pop off the bug pack, or it would fall out of the turtle exterminating gun. It was just a pain in the neck. And I'm sure that you're not going to make little animated things with your action figures. You're probably just going to set them up and put them on your shelf and leave them there. But, if you want to do a lot of posing with these guys, it's going to be a pain in the ass. I'm just warning you right now. Also, the placement of the ball on the hand, like I said before, is stupid. Why would you put the ball that connects to the wrist, like right behind the thumb? Like put it down at the bottom of the hand where it belongs, because I don't know, the hands are just always kind of posed, tilted, and it looks weird. It doesn't look right. Now, here's another thing, and maybe this is some of my failure. I kind of had a little bit of trouble, like, getting him into, like, dynamic poses. First of all, he tilts a lot. He falls over, maybe because he's top-heavy, because of the big shell. But also, it's just kind of hard to get the legs in the right spot to make them look correct. Like, I feel like the knee articulation is kind of cut in the leg at a weird place. There's something about the bottom of the leg that just kind of never lines up the right way for me. I feel like most of the times I was trying to get him to stand, the legs were almost always in the same position. Also, the torso cut is just kind of useless and just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. It's not flush with the abdomen. It's just kind of weird. But overall, I'm happy I picked this guy up. I think he was, not much more than the standard price. So that was good enough for me. And if Super 7 wants to continue to make every single 1990 Ninja Turtle action figure a glow-in-the-dark action figure, I will happily buy them. I will buy Wingnut and Screwloose, and whenever the Triceraton comes out, I'm sure he'll be pretty good, and I would buy a glow-in-the-dark Triceraton. That'd be awesome. Super 7, make it happen. So, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you later.